Hiya, welcome to Travel Culture. Today, we learn how modern permanent houses are constructed with roofing to compare later with the African hut roofing. Alright, let's dig in. As building technology has evolved over time, most houses in Africa, and here in Uganda to be more specific, are now constructed with a more permanence need to have the houses last for a long time. The rapid urbanization development is also enabling real quick construction of houses everywhere as more people want to rent them to be closer to the cities where there are more job opportunities. With that, we see a rise in house construction and real estate business than before as there is more increased tenancy occupation, including that of more expatriates coming in from abroad. Now, that will force into going more details if the different house construction types. We have the storied apartments which can be well furnished with expatriates prefer. We then have the bungalows residential types for homes and family tenants. Then there are those commercial business like shops and hotels. Our focus will be on construction of a residential house today, which then we can easily compare with the African traditional hut residential house. Our scope of learning is limited to the roofing aspects, including what materials are used to gauge the similarities, mostly amidst less differences. It will be important to also learn the context in which these house types are constructed depending on the regional areas, including aspects of weather and overall its importance. The ladder here is used to climb on top of the house to start roofing. We start at the stage where this residential house was constructed from the ground. It has reached the level we call beam. At the beam level, it means the house has been constructed from the ground built through columns reaching level ground at the top to now allow roofing. Beam construction levels may be defined differently, but in our local term, it means the house level ready for roofing. The level may vary a bit with the window spacing, but what's important, all around the top the house has been equally leveled for roofing. This type of house is what is termed as the permanent house structure. It has been built from burnt bricks that turned the orange color we see. But before these bricks were made from mud, such as those line up here, soil was dug from a plot of land such as this. The soil was mixed in water. And if you're wondering where the water is got from, there are different sources from swampy streams found in gardens, such as this one here, where the water will be fetched in jerrycans to the mixing site for use. When it rains, a lot of water will clog here, which the brick makers can use later. They prefer working during the sunny conditions so the bricks can dry faster, though it can be too hot under sun conditions. At night, the water is filled with lots of frog noises, so it's a home to many frogs, often termed as the African dwarf frogs. We can hardly see them even when zoomed in, as they know how to hide pretty well and very sensitive to sound to keep quiet when they hear any unnatural approach. In the morning, they are really active, though jumping quickly with excitement of life, as some may have hatched through the night. Here ahead, let's see this other stream flow that crosses in between the road. This water has a lot of pressure that even during the dry season, it keeps flowing, though at lower levels. It means if the previous nearby stream dries up, then the brick makers go a longer journey to get this water. Briefly, let's quickly experience nature at its best as we explore how this stream crosses the road, making rapid sounds. Listen on in. The stream with its rapid pressure keeps this swampy area wet, watering the surrounding gardens. And looking through the trees, isn't that beautiful sunset beams picking through the trees? Since we have many Maram roads, sometimes I wonder if it gets too bad water collected by the roadside like here can be used, or it's only clear water with another form of mud. Questions to explore during the future detailed process. Here. However, one thing to avoid is tap water. Comes with lots of expenses. We've seen the water sources of collection used to mix with soil. It takes a while with lots of kicking the mixture to turn into dough. The wooden box plate is used to reshape the soil dough placed in there to make the triangular mud bricks, which are first lined on the floor to dry, then later piled up together and protected with grass covering to prevent them from breaking up while creating space for other formations. At the final step, all bricks will be piled into a brick tunnel to be cooked. But those are process details that we shall dive into in near future, including the different brick types. For example, the ones across are gray, not orange. Generally, hopefully, this explains why our house of exploration today has orange bricks. That was one material component. For building purposes, the bricks are glued together using cement. The house roof rest for this structure is triangular in shape that allows different roof designs with multiple slopes all round. From this angle, we have a better view of the beam stage where the house has been all leveled at the top. Flat wood is placed on top of the bricks. This helps create a shape that will allow support roofing with the hammer of timber logs going all around the house. The flat wood laid on the top end of the bricks will then secure the small long logs that nailed firmly to it all around as they rise to connect in the middle at the top, almost creating a cone shape. Logs are mainly got from young eucalyptus trees seen from this corner top circled here. This type of house is huge with several rooms. Each room has log roofing center on one side towards one center point in the middle of the whole house for all logo combination. In that case, it hardly one roofer at the top. There may be several people at the top assisting each other to organize the timber tops and screwing. At the ground level, there will also be another team passing on the required materials. It can be a complex work combination of so much wood being put in place. But what secures these timber all together in place? It's the nails, screws, and metal connectors that have been used. Though, this requires hiring experienced professionals who know how to put everything in place. Therefore, usually a house construction site will have one overall engineer who will bring different expertise at each stage build process. For example here, you find the team that laid the bricks is different from this one putting the timber roof housing. At this point, let's see the different angles of the building roofing. Here at its behind is a neighboring plot garden yet to be built in. We see a mixture of coffee and banana crops. This metal here is one of the building tools used, as we move to explore the front end of the building to see how it's shaping up. The small stones here are materials used mainly for the floor making. Oh, look at this angle. Wow! One can say the first step roofing is done where all the timber and logs have been placed all around the house ready for next roofing stage. Visiting another house, here we see the next stage where they put iron sheets. The iron sheets are nailed onto the timber and logs that were placed at the top to now provide a covering or shade for the house all around. So now you understand why the previous step was important. The timber must be able to support the iron sheets types. One should ensure to get a good one. To put the first iron sheet, it's carefully slid from the sides down below and placed starting at eaves hanging by the low edges of the roof. The second iron sheet is slid over the previous to overlap the previous one by proper distance to fasten onto each other. Why the overlap? It's because one iron sheet is usually the size of 5 feet in width and 40 feet in length, so one sheet cannot cover the whole building structure. Therefore, several iron sheets have to overlap each other for fastening. From this inside angle, one can hardly tell there are several as they are neatly fixed together. One aspect to consider is the outside color top of the iron sheet. These here are maroon color top, while this house across has the traditional gray kind of white color top type. These were the first types of Orion sheets, but with technology, they began coloring, and the colored are more expensive attractively on top of course. However, the inside remains the traditional gray, but it doesn't matter. This is because upon completion of putting the iron sheets, they put a ceiling inside the house covering the sheets, only leaving a ceiling hole usually found in the corridor like we see here or toilet. Builders climb in there to do repairs. The repairs may include linkage of water and also electrical wiring of the house. Looking up here, we can see how a ceiling room looks like. The ceiling is important in keeping the house cool, just as the grass roofing insulates the hut. Else without it, the iron sheets absorb in a lot of heat. When the house is complete, it's a beautiful colorful roofing top of red iron sheets that also have a tiled top design made to look similar to the brick tiled roofing, another roof type done using bricks, not iron sheets. Now, looking at the beautiful front of the house, what remains is color painting on top of the gray plastered walls. That was a beautiful completion of the residential house roofing with iron sheets. Now, as we exit the site, let's explore the more similarities and some few differences in comparison with roofing of the African hut house design. We have explored a lot of the African hut house architecture among different communities of men and women. If you would view our previous documentaries, that the answers to the comparisons are clear. But first, let's take a break and enjoy the beautiful gardens here. These are some eggplants growing under banana or plantain trees. This upcountry green is always beautiful to walk through with a fresh breath of air. Ha! Was that a family of hens? Hens love gardens. They look lovely to watch until the crops like beans and groundnuts start flowering. They eat off all those pretty purple and white flowers, meaning the crops cannot fruit. The fruit trees here are guavas growing by the roadside, and school kids love them at fruit stage. All right, here, we see how the African hut house is roofed. Just as the residential house we saw earlier, they use logs during roofing, but they are brought together at one middle center point. Unlike the earlier triangular house shape of multiple roof design, the African hut is built all round and curving in at the top, allowing only one roof design. However, the timber and logs may vary, where in this case, they use bamboo trees mainly and a mixture of both in case one is lacking enough resources. The African hut roofing doesn't require heavy roofing materials, hence the light wood can easily provide the necessary support. In both cases, the house wood are fastened with nails, but for the African hut other materials are required to keep the timber intact. Sisal or palm leaves, and in other cases old clothes and nets, are used to fasten the timber tightly together. Once the logos are well prepared, it's the bundled grass, not iron sheets, that is thatched to make the roofing. This process usually involves one person who is the lead and assisted by another on the ground. Given the house structure is small, the construction sites will have few persons involved. For example, here we see the top roofer assisted by one person on the ground to pass on materials. However, at this stage, another person will be required to be inside to help pass back the cloth strip, which is tightened to the grass and timber in kind of a sewing cycle of tying from the inside out, as the plant materials are all bundled together. So there is a third person inside. One difference aspect in regards to the residential permanent house is that the top of the wall is small, curving in at the top. Therefore, no flat wood is required to create a leveled beam, as this top round shape creates its own beam. The walls are traditionally made of mud. This is similar to the brick making process, where the soil is mixed in water. However, here the bricks won't be cooked or baked into the orange color. They remain at the line-up triangular mud stage as used during construction, by laying one brick after another in circular form glued by wet mud, not cement. And that is only a recent integration. But in most cases, as traditionally done, it's the mixtured dough from water and soil is what is usually used to construct the walls. It's a long process which involves lining wood sticks tied together all around to support the mud soil sticking together to form the hut house wall. In conclusion, we see more similarities than differences. Well, modern building technology is involving the integration of both methods, where you will find more and more African huts will also have iron sheet roofings with walls built also of the baked orange bricks. While the modern residential structures are also adapting the cone-shaped and circular roofing of the African hut, and in more cases roofing grass is being preferred. But these will be mainly in touristy areas for traditional attractions. However, the context of the regional housing for each house is an important consideration. Residential brick houses are built in the central part of the country, considered less hot, adapting to temperatures, while African grass roofing adapts well to northern region, regulating the hot temperatures. It has been a pleasure to explore together, and please keep around to learn about the food aspect during construction. Cheers, smiles.